Good day, folks. Welcome to our next interview. I've got Pete Sherlock with us from Farm Films. And we're going to chat to him about the industry, what's going on. We know Cape Town is the place to be within the film industry, and he's going to give us some insights into the business and how he got into it. Yeah, so Pete was talking about that. Let's just get started. How did you get into the film business?
My dad was an architect, and at a very young age, I must have been about 5 or 6, I guess. We lived about 20 kilometers outside of Durban in Natal, and there were no movie theaters near us. And my dad designed a shopping mall, I guess, with 2 cinemas in it, just down the road from us. And I can remember going to the opening of the cinema and watching the first show there, and sitting there thinking, that's it, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to make movies. So that's kind of where it all started. And my folks also had a little 8mm wind-up Brownie movie camera. And I spent a lot of time on that, making the most ridiculous films. But I had a lot of fun, and so really from that point forward, it was my major interest. And then somewhere along the line, when I finished school, of course, in South Africa there were no courses for film at that stage, and so I actually applied at Natal University and got into architecture and was about to start architecture. And heard about film school up in Pretoria at the Pretoria Technikon, and decided, well, actually, that was definitely what I was going to do, and here I am.
Yeah, just talking about the schools and that. Do you think that for somebody who's wanting to get in, do you think to go to a college or a school is the right way, or just to go in at the bottom and work your way up the top? I mean, to the top, is it? Do you think it's acceptable in the industry?
I think all roads lead to Rome. I really think it depends on the individual. I know that I benefited from going to college, and whilst I was at college, I had to put myself through college. So I had to work during my vacations, and which made it a whole lot harder, because as soon as I was on set and working, then everyone was like, "Oh, well, you're crazy. Why are you studying? You're already in the industry." But I think what it does really is it allows you, by studying, it allows you to have a more comprehensive idea of filmmaking in its entirety. Whereas if you start on the floor and work up, you're normally in one department, which means that your experience is focused to whichever department it is you choose. So I think it gives you a much better rounded view of our industry and how it works. Yeah, but I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I think it's whichever way works for you.
No, absolutely. And I just by chance happened to do the assisting route, went to art school for a while and studied business, and then got into the photography side. So I think, I think either way I would have done what I ended up doing. And can you just tell me a little bit about how Farm Films got going and how who you work with and how it got started?
Sure. Farm Films was born in 98 and was started by an English focus puller, Skip Margetts, and an English DP and a South African producer. And Skip had been out here with this DP, and they'd shot a couple of times in South Africa, and they saw the gap in the market for a company that kind of had its feet both in the UK and in South Africa. So as we all know what the definition of a soap peel is. So very much in that vein, and so that's how it started, and it initially pandered really entirely to the UK market, and they, of course, being in the industry there, they had great contacts there, so it was a good start for them. And then I think over time, the network grew for the company, and as we all know, this industry is about it's about who you know and how you get on with them, you know. I joined the company in 2008. Skip was actually he had started an aerial camera company. And he was finding it difficult to spread his time between the two, so he needed someone to help him on the service side. So I ended up jumping in there, and we've just celebrated our 20 years, so we're very happy about that. It's a bit of a thank you, a bit of a milestone for us, and we have clients now from Europe, the States, and we're lucky enough in that we've got great clients, and we tend to end up our kind of bread and butter commercials generally are very interesting and are quite a challenge to shoot.
Is most of the work commercials that you're doing, or are you doing feature films and that as well?
Look, the feature film industry is a very different industry. I was an AD for over 20 years, and I spent a lot of my time on features, and although we're in the same industry in the sense that we're all making films, it's the way it works is very different, and we're not set up for features. That's not to say we haven't been down that road. We have shot bits of features for companies. We do have our film accreditation with bonding companies in the US, so we could shoot a feature, and we've been very close to shooting features. At this stage, we just haven't managed to land one, or we've been a little bit unlucky in some instances. We had signed off contracted jobs, and the director got offered something else, so he left the project, so the project fell flat on its face. So it is something that we look at occasionally, but certainly our bread and butter are commercials and content, I would say, yeah.
Look, I think it's always a good thing to specialize. I mean, I specialize very much. I mean, I'm known for my still life and jewelry and studio fashion work, I mean, more than anything. And it's interesting, the Cape Town side, Cape Town's become such a big area or region for the film and commercials and feature film, you know, industry. And sort of what led to that, or in your 20 years, you know, how's Cape Town built itself up with such a big reputation, with, I imagine, some problems along the way?
I think we're very lucky because we have a skill set here that very few other places in the world have, and that is linked to a location base and a currency that also both lend themselves to film. And I've got to say that our South Africa and specifically Cape Town, because that's where we're based, so I can speak with some kind of authority on it, but our crew are our biggest asset. And, you know, we have crew in Cape Town who work on average 200 odd days a year, the guys who are up there and busy. And that is fantastic experience, and overseas people recognize that. I think the way we got here was when it all started, when it kicked off. I was actually working up in Johannesburg for Patrick Latham Productions many years ago, and I came down on a shoot. It was for a bank job. I came down to Cape Town on a shoot, and I arrived here on the plane a couple of days before we shot. Got off the plane, went to go and stay at a friend's house, and at that stage I was doing a lot of climbing, and the sun was setting. It was late afternoon, evening. He said, "Come, let's go for a climb." And I said, "Are you mad? We can't, you know, it's climbing at night." He said, "No, don't worry, it's going to be fine." And off we went to Table Mountain, and of course in those days the lights came on Table Mountain every night. So there we were. We climbed on the lower buttress. We had a fantastic climb. Finished that, I started work. The next day was a Nedbank commercial, actually. I think Mike Swan was one of the camera operators on it. Ian Campbell was the director, who's recently passed. It was on a boat, and sailing is one of the things I love as well. So yeah, so we ended up having the most amazing shoot, and I just thought, damn, this place is amazing. Johannesburg is great, and it has its things, but Cape Town is just, there's the ocean, there are mountains, everything's so close. And that wowed me over, and that's exactly what happened with the international crowds when the country in '94, after those elections, although it started earlier than that, people wanted to come here. It's beautiful. The Cape is exquisite, and so agencies and clients all wanted to come and visit and wanted to soak up a little bit of Cape Town love. So that's how it all started, and then in the old days, they would bring all their HODs and in fact even clapper loaders. They'd bring a focus puller, they'd bring a loader, they'd bring a grip, possibly a grip assistant, definitely a gaffer, an art director. So the English would come here with a massive crew, and we would learn from them. And these were a crew that had been around for ages and been shooting, and they had the experience and the knowledge. And we very quickly caught on to that and bought into that, and then grew from there. So then the money thing came in with the exchange rate. You literally, what you buy in South Africa costs you almost double in the UK. So our production expenses here are roughly half of what it would cost to do something similar in the UK. And of course, when they need the sun in winter there, when they are doing all their summer advertising, there's no sun in Europe. The weather there is miserable, thank goodness. So, it's a great place to come. And as long as we keep to our work ethic, and there's no reason why we wouldn't, I think that we will continue to be one of the best places to come and shoot at.
Yeah, and I've worked over the years with a lot of I'm sure the same people that you work with. I mean, we've worked together in the past, and yeah, the crews are, phenomenal. And I think a lot of what we produce, actually, I think we can pretty much compete with anywhere in the world on a lot of issues. Just sometimes we don't obviously have the budgets locally, but when doing international work, we definitely can. So the one thing that I have noticed in the industry, there's been a flood of production companies that have come in. I mean, we've been hit on the photography side. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry's a photographer, which is great. Look, it's you can't stop people from doing what they're doing, and I think it's great that there are a lot of, and the opportunities are there for people. How have you managed to adjust to that sort of competition in the production thing, or are you guys are so well established that it's pretty much been?
Malcolm, I don't think you can ever rest on your laurels. I think the moment you do that, it's over. And not that we have any laurels to rest on, but I think the industry itself, especially the service industry, is constantly changing, and the goalposts shift all the time. And there are constant new challenges. Who would have thought that who would have thought about the coronavirus and the challenges that's bringing us, let alone all the other things that go on, So I think one of the reasons why we're still there and we're still shooting, I think South Africa in general and for the farm, is that we as South Africans, we have a great can-do attitude, and our clients comment on it. It's very much something that they notice. And look, I'm lucky enough. I've worked overseas. I've worked in Europe on shoots and in the States, where I've been the producer for the production company, and another company has been servicing our production. So I'm lucky. I've seen it from both sides. And crews over there are very different, and the shoot ethics are quite different to the ethic we have here. I think in South Africa, we all help each other. We're all kind of looking out for each other. If the wind's blowing and there's a lighting stand that's looking dodgy, everyone who sees it will do something about it. Whereas you might not get that in other countries and in other industries. So I think that is our strength here, is that we are able to work together, and we're able to adapt to the challenges. And Skip and I have a fantastic partnership in the sense that we communicate very fluidly and easily with each other, and we both have our strengths and our weaknesses, and we're able to play off each other's strengths, and fill in on each other's weaknesses. But man, you can't stop looking over your shoulder. You've got to keep changing and adapting and making sure you're delivering, because the last job you did is the job that your clients will remember you by,
Absolutely. And just over the time, I mean, I've seen sometimes on your Facebook pages some incredible rigs and setups that you guys have got going there. What are some of the most memorable things that you've done over the time?
I think, sure. And that's quite a big question. But I think for me, the most interesting thing really are the people that I meet, because you meet the most incredible range of personalities and characters, and because it's a creative industry. Look, I haven't worked in any other industry, so I can't speak from experience here, but certainly on our side, people's egos are perhaps a little bit unfettered as they are in other industries, and so you kind of get to see some interesting people. And I think that one of the most interesting jobs I've done was for Moxie Films. Adam Sayward was the producer on it, and they called us, I think it was 2007 or 2009, a zoologist discovered a rainforest in Mozambique, 11,000 hectares of rainforest, which up until that stage had never been known to Western civilization. And it was the most southern rainforest in the world, I believe. And he had used Google Earth to find it. And we got contracted to lead an expedition to the forest and go into the forest and shoot not only a commercial, but shoot a content piece about the forest. And we had a base in Malawi. We had to cross into Mozambique. We had to send people ahead of us to liaise with all the various tribes people in the areas and get permission for us to be there. It was reasonably close to the area, which is unstable. I think at the moment it's still unstable. So, we had to slaughter goats and gift chickens and all sorts of things to get permission to go through there. And we ended up, the drive-in was a hell drive. We left at, 4 or 5 in the morning and got there late at night. And we ended up in the middle of the mountains on an old tea plantation called on the slopes of Mount Mebu, and we actually debussed and camped in what was the old mine manager's house, but had been taken over at some stage by one of the armed groups in Mozambique, and so it was full of graffiti and what have you. And then from there, we walked into the jungle. We had porters. We had to take all our own gear in. We had to overcome the fact that we couldn't charge batteries using generators because the director wanted to be able to shoot at any given moment. And so we developed kind of portable battery packs that we could recharge the camera batteries with. Of course, we had little generators as well. And we had a security detail, and it was there were a couple of very big, strong, gung-ho men who'd been to all sorts of salubrious places all over the world and made things right or wrong or whatever it was. But these strong guys who were supposed to be as fit as anything and machines of men. What was interesting was they handed over most of their backpacks to the villagers, and most of the porters, I think we had 20 porters, there were 10 of us, I think we had 20 porters, most of them were women. And so it ended up, he actually, without realizing it, he ended up promising his hand in marriage to his porter because there was a language issue. But we ended up in this rainforest, which basically is circled by mountains, which is why no one had seen it, and only on the northern end was open. And Mount Meru being the highest, and every full moon on Mount Meru, all the butterflies came out, and they had this whole mating thing on the top of the mountain, which the zoologist, he was actually a lepidopterist, I think, is that correct? He looked after or studied butterflies, which he had also stumbled across this, which apparently was amazing. We got to saw a little bit of it. Unfortunately, conditions weren't fantastic for us, but we ended up being in this pristine rainforest for a couple of days with the people who actually lived in the rainforest, and that was incredibly interesting and something that I don't think you'll get to do that in your life too often.
People say that there's nothing left to discover in this world, but there are new species to be discovered, lost worlds to be found.
We concentrate so much on thinking about going into space, and yet on our doorstep, there's pockets of habitat that hardly anyone has been to.
I was working on an isolated mountain in Malawi, and I noticed there were similar mountains over the border in Mozambique. There was nothing written about these mountains. So when I returned to the UK, I was able to see Mount Mulanje in southern Malawi, which is a site I knew very well. I was then able to look across northern Mozambique. And then as I zoomed in, I saw this dark green patch suddenly emerge. That was tremendously exciting because this could be a lost rainforest. When you enter into a forest, everything changes. Life is buzzing all around you. Look at the size of the trees. We've discovered approximately 12 new species from Mount Meru. This is Nadzicambia baileysi. I was lucky enough to find the first one of these. The knowledge, information that we could benefit from as humankind could be sitting here all around us. You're always asking questions. As soon as you think you have the answer to the new questions, new doors open. That's the beauty of life.
That's a nice thing about the industry we're in. Myself being on the still side and you being on the film side, we do get to see a lot of different things and get a lot of meet some really incredible characters and stuff, which is a great thing, if one's wanting to do that. And then Pete, just going on to your own personal side, I see you're a bit of an adventurer. You've just mentioned you like climbing up mountains and rock faces, and also you're big into your sailing. You say you spent time up in Joburg. What got you into that side of things, and how do you manage that with?
So I studied up in Pretoria, which led me to Joburg, and I ended up working in Johannesburg for a couple of years, and then moving down to Cape Town. But I grew up in Durban, or just outside Durban, on the coast. So I grew up in the ocean, and I was lucky enough. My summer sport at school was sailing. So water's been in my blood since day one, and my dad was a big climber in the Drakensberg, so that got me interested in mountains, and I spent a lot of time in the Drakensberg. And then when I moved down to Cape Town, I got married a couple of years after moving down here, and I bought a Hobie and introduced my wife to sailing, and she's an Eastern Cape sheep farmer's daughter, so sailing was pretty foreign to her, and so we sailed on the Hobie, and we had a beach cottage up in Pringle Bay for many years, and the whole family just loves being on the ocean, and then one day we decided, well, actually we're getting to the beach cottage less and less because of school. The kids had sports on the weekends and functions and what have you, and maintaining a beach cottage is no easy feat. So we decided to sell the beach cottage, and I thought, well, my dad had a yacht, and I used to race on it, and I thought, well, why don't I use that money and buy ourselves a little boat and see if the family likes sailing. So we did that. We bought a small catamaran, a 35-foot cat, and spent about a year fixing it up and making it right. And the family loved sailing, and we eventually took that up to Mozambique on an adventure up to Bazaruto, and several other sailing adventures with that up the west coast and what have you. And there was a gentleman on the at one stage we kept the boat at Mykonos, and there was a gentleman who kept on walking past the boat, and every time he walked past the boat he'd shout at me, "Get off my fucking boat." And I kind of look at this guy and think, hell, what the hell? Anyway, and I just ignored it. I was a little bit shocked at I had no idea who he was. And then one day, he did it 2 or 3 times, and then one day I said to him, "Hey, what's your story? Have you got Tourette's or what's, And we got chatting, and he said to me, no, he loves our boat, and it's his dream boat and what have you. And I said, well, it's not for sale. To cut a long story short, 2 or 3 months later, we were without a boat, and Peter, his name was also Peter, had bought this boat from us, which he subsequently sailed across the Caribbean and is busy doing that. He's busy cruising. But so we were without a boat for a while, and we eventually found our dream boat in the Seychelles, and that's a different story. But we worked hard on getting a decent deal for that, and we were very lucky enough to achieve that and get a fantastic deal on a beautiful boat. And we've done Madagascar twice. We spent some time up in the Seychelles, Mozambique, and it's the family love cruising, and it's not a lifestyle for everyone. It's not an easy lifestyle. Everyone sees the pictures of the blue water and thinks it's sunsets and dolphins. But there's a lot more to it than that. But the family really enjoy it, and we love the adventure. And we love the isolation, talking about that. Isolation is a bit of a key word at the moment, but we love the fact that you can... We love the fact that you can go wherever you want. You just got to make sure the wind's blowing in the right direction and point the boat, and off you go.
It's so great. I mean, you've got to keep that balance as well, between your work life and things and what you enjoy doing. And then I think just the last one, I mean, we've been hammered by this coronavirus and this time and being in lockdown and all that. And I know there must be tons of people, because it's, the busiest time in the industry in Cape Town for a lot of the crews who've lost work and not been able to shoot. And, I've been in that situation and you're in that situation. How have you guys managed to cope up with this, with what's going on at the moment?
Sure, Malcolm. Yeah, it's been a disaster for the industry, definitely, and it's been very difficult, and we have sat and racked our brains, and we've tried to come up with various ideas and what have you, and in the short term, unless you're doing a 180 and starting to do something else, there is really, in my opinion, there's no easy answer to it. What we have done is we've started shooting a bunch of feel-good clips as freebies for companies that have turned themselves around, just so that we're working at least, and that takes away a little bit of the edge of despair, basically. But it is, look, with stage 4, we're open, we're allowed to work, and we've had a fantastic response from our clients around the world, and as you know, I've just done a quote for the States for a tabletop shoot, which unfortunately didn't go our way, or didn't go our client's way, but we are quoting. I've got another job, a 4-day job that we're quoting. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope to hell it's not a freight train bearing down on us.
I hope so as well. And I think, we've got to do things differently. And there's just got to, that's why I'm doing this Let's Collaborate group and just trying to come up with ideas and things where people can start working together. We've got a thing now where I don't know if you've seen it, I'm trying to get a cookbook going with a TV show. Things like that we're just trying to put together. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's just that putting together, and there might not be as much money in it as the beginning, but at least it's something to just try and get the wheels turning. So yeah, I think there will be opportunities though going forward.
I think so. I was reading today about Iceland and about Spain. Iceland's opening up. They are trying to attract Hollywood there. Spain has just upped its rebate system to 30%. I think it's a BFC, British Film Commission, are talking. They started negotiations today about how they're going to get the UK film industry back on track. I think that as filmmakers, all of us in this country, need to look at how we can create a space to get people to come back here again. I think air travel's going to be dead for a while. We're not going to have people traveling here for a while, and I know that the CPA are all over that, and I know a lot of individuals have invested money into making sure we have gear here that allow remote shoots. So I think once again the South African can-do attitude is going to be really important here, and we need to show the world very quickly that we are capable of shooting and setting up remote shoots for them, which is it's easy for them, it's comfortable for them. The process must be simple, and they must feel like they are still in control, because that's the big thing. At the end of the day, the clients and the agency, creatives and the director need to have the same amount of control, albeit in a different form or different way. So that's where the challenge lies for us, and I think the sooner we get back on the bike and start riding it, even though it might have square wheels, we got to get on and we got to ride it. And the moment we start working, work begets work. The moment we're up there and we're shooting, people start talking about it, and the word spreads, and we'll get more shoots here. There's nowhere else in the world at the moment with the value of the rand and the experience of our crew and the spread of locations we have here. In my opinion, there's no better place in the world to be shooting. And the farm sent out a MailChimp a couple of days ago, and the response I've had from that from our clients has been overwhelming. I've had literally 20, 30 emails from clients saying, fantastic, we want to come, we're ready to come. As soon as a project hits our inbox, we're going to hit you up, and so on. So there's definitely the potential out there. We're just going to make it happen.
Well, it's great. And it's nice to end up on a positive note like that, because I think we do have everything here, and we just got to seize it. So yeah, thanks so much for giving up some of your time to have a chat to us, and I'm sure everybody in the group will really appreciate what you've got to say, and people out there in the film industry are watching this. So thanks so much for your time, and yeah, we'll chat again soon.